When a gigantic orca found itself trapped on a New Zealand shoreline, a crowd quickly gathered around the helpless animal. What followed astonished everyone present, as they witnessed an event they never imagined they would experience. The first light of dawn had just touched Marlborough Beach, New Zealand, when locals came across a distressing scene. There, sprawled across the sand, lay an enormous orca, its black and white body glistening in the early light. The gravity of the situation was immediately apparent. This killer whale was now helpless on land. Word spread quickly through the small coastal community, and people knew they had to act fast. As calls for help went out, more onlookers gathered on the beach, their faces a mix of concern and disbelief. Interestingly, this wasn't the first orca sighting in recent days. Just yesterday, beachgoers had been thrilled to see a pod of orcas hunting close to shore. These weren't small animals. Each orca was as long as a school bus. The group moved together like a well-trained swimming team. Some dived deep, while others stayed near the surface. They were probably hunting for fish, bringing orcas close to shore. People stopped to watch them. Kids pointed at the water as the orcas showed off their swimming skills. The orcas lingered close to the shore for several hours, and as night approached, they returned to the deeper waters. The beachgoers left with the feeling that they had witnessed something remarkable. No one could have predicted that, by the next day, one of these orcas would be struggling to survive on the very same beach. The local community quickly became attached to the stranded orca and called her Luna. This wasn't just any sea animal. Orcas are among the smartest animals on Earth. Their brains are large and complex, similar to dolphins and chimpanzees. They can solve problems and remember things for many years. Orcas are such good hunters that scientists call them the wolves of the sea. They work in groups to catch food, sharing techniques with the younger ones in their pod. They're known to create waves to knock seals off ice floes and even beach themselves on purpose to catch prey, but only in places where they know they can slide back into deeper water. So how did such a smart animal end up stranded? The answer likely lay in the tricky coastal waters. When orcas hunt, they focus intensely on their prey. Luna might have chased a fish into the shallows, not realizing how quickly the water level was decreasing. The changing tides could have trapped her, pushing her further onto the beach. Even with all their intelligence, orcas can't read tide charts or predict how sandbanks shift under the waves. However, the how was less pressing than the what now. Could Luna be saved? This huge animal was built for swimming in deep ocean waters, and it was stuck on dry land. In the open ocean, orcas are among the most powerful creatures on Earth. They can outswim Olympic athletes and dive deeper than submarines. However, on the shore, Luna was unable to rely on any of these incredible abilities. As the morning went on, things got worse for the killer whale. The sun rose higher, shining down on the whale's skin. Orcas have dark skin that absorbs heat quickly. This isn't a problem in the ocean because the water keeps them cool, but on the beach, it meant the orca was getting hotter. More and more people kept coming to the beach. Each person who arrived asked the same question: how can we help? The people knew they had to work fast. They formed a plan to keep the orca alive until they could figure out how to get her back in the ocean. Some folks ran to their homes and came back with buckets. They filled these buckets with seawater and poured it over the orca's body. This helped in two ways. It kept the orca's skin wet and cool and reminded her body of being in the ocean. Other people brought large sheets and towels. They soaked these in seawater and draped them over the orca's body. As time went by, the orca's condition deteriorated. Orcas have smooth, rubber-like skin that must remain moist. Despite people's continuous efforts to pour water over her, the orca's skin began to dry out. The orca's breathing changed too. At first, she had been breathing steadily, but as time went on, her breaths became faster and more shallow. It looked like she was having to work harder to get air. Her eyes changed as well. Orcas have big, expressive eyes that seem almost human-like. When the orca first beached, her eyes were alert, and she looked around at the people. But now they started to look dull and unfocused. It was as if she was getting too tired to notice what was happening around her. Seeing the orca get worse made everyone work even harder. Those who had come to the beach just to watch now joined in to help. Some grabbed buckets and joined the line of people bringing water from the ocean. Others helped hold the wet sheets in place to keep the sun off. Kids helped too. Some made trips back and forth to nearby stores, bringing bottles of water for the volunteers too. drink. Others helped organize the supplies people brought, making sure everything was easy to find when needed. The rescuers realized they needed a more effective strategy. They couldn't simply keep pouring water on the orca indefinitely. She had to return to the ocean, and quickly. But how could they move something so heavy? An adult orca can weigh as much as 6 tons, about the same as a large elephant or a big truck. No matter how strong or hard the people pushed, they couldn't move the orca back into the water by themselves. Their first plan seemed like it would work. A local fishing boat offered to help tow Luna back to sea. The idea was simple: attach ropes to the boat, wrap them carefully around Luna, and pull her into deeper water. The boat captain was ready and the ropes were in place. However, nature had other ideas. Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. When they tried to implement this plan, the sea wasn't calm that day. Waves kept crashing against the shore, pushing the boat back every time it tried to get close enough. The boat captain tried 3 different approaches, but the waves forced him to pull back each time. If the boat got too close to shore, it might also get stuck on the sand, which would cause 2 problems instead of 1. The ropes posed yet another challenge. Luna's skin, normally shielded by water, was delicate and sensitive. The ropes could press into her flesh, much like a tight rubber band digging into your finger. Even if they managed to position the boat perfectly, pulling her could cause serious harm. No one was willing to take that risk. After the boat plan failed, the team moved on to their second idea. Someone suggested digging a channel in the sand, like a small river leading from Luna to the ocean. The plan made sense. Create a path where water could flow and help Luna float. 20 people grabbed shovels and started digging, but the sand wouldn't cooperate. As fast as they dug, the sides of the channel collapsed, filling it back in. It was like trying to dig a hole at the beach near the water. The sand kept sliding back into the hole. They tried making the channel wider, but the same thing kept happening. Even in the sections where they managed to keep the channel open, they faced a bigger problem. The water flowing through wasn't strong enough to help move Luna. Both rescue attempts ended in failure. But these setbacks taught the team a valuable lesson. They realized they couldn't work against nature. They had to collaborate with it. This understanding led them to their ultimate strategy: waiting for the high tide. This made the most sense. The water would help lift Luna's weight when the tide rose naturally. Meanwhile, they could keep her skin wet and cool. Once the water got deep enough, Luna could use her strength to swim. This plan was safer and worked with nature instead of against it. Time was running out, though. The longer Luna stayed on land, the more dangerous it became for her. But there was another big worry. Orcas live in families called pods, and they never leave each other. A pod is like a super close family that stays together their whole lives. The mom, dad, brothers, sisters, and even grandparents all swim together, hunt together, and protect each other. They even have their own special sounds they use to talk to each other, like their own secret language. Luna's family was likely swimming in the deeper waters nearby, waiting and calling out for her. Orcas become deeply distressed when they are separated from their pod. The rescue team could clearly see how anxious and unsettled Luna was. Sometimes she would make sounds, probably trying to call back to her family. This is why everyone was working so fast. They knew Luna needed to get back to her pod soon. Some of the rescue team experts also knew that if they could get Luna back to deep water, her pod would help her. Orcas are known to support sick or hurt family members, swimming close to them, and even pushing them up to the surface to breathe if they need help. But first, they had to get Luna off the beach. If their plan didn't work, Luna might never see her family again. However, as the hours dragged on, it became clear that the whale was giving up. Once frequently moving, her movements grew still as she tried to right herself. Her breathing became shallow. The crowd watched in anguish and silence, many wiping away tears. It seemed that despite their best efforts, they would witness a tragedy. Then as the tide began to come in, the first waves reached Luna's tail. Suddenly there was movement. Her tail twitched. This small sign told everyone that Luna wasn't giving up. She had been conserving her energy, waiting for the water to return. The rescue team saw their chance. As the tide rose and more water surrounded Luna, the team began to gently sway her body. This movement allowed water to flow beneath her, and guided her toward the deeper waters. Orcas are sensitive to water currents, and Luna could sense which direction would lead her back to the open ocean. At first, nothing seemed to change. The team kept steady with their rocking motion. Then slowly, Luna began to respond. She started moving with the water's flow, using her tail to test the best way. She wasn't thrashing or panicking. She was working with the rescuers, using the incoming tide to help lift her body. This careful coordination between Luna and the rescue team showed exactly why orcas are called one of the smartest animals in the ocean. Most wild animals would panic if humans tried to touch them, but not Luna. She seemed to know that all these people on the beach were trying to save her life. When the rescuers pushed gently on one side, she moved that way. When they guided her toward deeper water, she tried to follow their lead. It's like she could understand what they wanted her to do. The volunteers, now standing waist-deep in the surf, pushed and pulled, striving to steer her toward freedom. It was grueling and hazardous work. A single misstep could lead to injury from the whale's powerful tail flukes, yet no one was ready to give up. Finally, after several hours, Luna reached a depth where she could swim freely. There was a moment of tense silence as everyone waited to see what would happen next. The whale floated for a moment, seemingly unsure. Then, with a powerful stroke of her tail, she surged forward. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, many embracing each other in joy and relief. But the orca wasn't done surprising them. Instead of immediately swimming out to sea, she circled back, approaching the shore where the volunteers stood. For a heart-stopping moment, some feared she might beach herself again. But she stopped short, her dorsal fin cutting through the water as she swam parallel to the beach. As everyone watched, she did something amazing. She launched her entire body out of the water, spinning in midair. This move, called breaching, is something orcas do to communicate with each other. Luna's leap wasn't just for show. It told her rescuers and her pod she was okay. When an orca breaches, they use their powerful tail to push themselves entirely out of the water. For Luna to do this after being stranded showed how much strength she had gotten back. Each leap sent water splashing everywhere, like a giant cannonball at a pool. The crowd gasped and cheered with each jump. Luna breached 3 times, each leap a jubilant celebration of her freedom. These jumps were a clear expression of joy, as orcas are one of the few animals known to celebrate and play purely out of happiness. They are also among the rare species, besides humans, that teach their young how to play. Luna's exuberance was a perfect display of orca joy, leaving everyone in awe. After her jumps, Luna started swimming toward deeper water. Her movement showed everyone this wasn't just luck. She knew exactly where she was going. Orcas have an internal compass that helps them navigate the ocean. They can remember routes and locations for years, passing this knowledge down through their pod. As Luna swam further out, people could see her tall dorsal fin cutting through the water. A dorsal fin can be as tall as a grown person, and each orca's fin is slightly different, like a fingerprint. The crowd watched until they couldn't see her fin anymore, knowing she was heading back to her family pod. As the adrenaline of the rescue faded, the reality of what they had accomplished began to sink in. Strangers hugged, laughed, and cried together. They had united as a community and saved a life against incredible odds. In the days after, the orca's rescue story spread from Marlborough Beach to national and international news. Marine biologists were fascinated by the whale's apparent cooperation during the rescue. From a desperate struggle to a triumphant return to the ocean, this story highlights the power of human compassion in aiding animals in need. Did you enjoy this story? Would you have helped the orca despite the risks? Have you ever rescued an animal from a tragic fate? Let us know in the comments below. If you like the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Sometimes the most incredible moments in life are the ones we least expect. Thank you so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.